I think we're here. Hello, everyone. Well, hi. I'm Rand Hoppy. I'm the executive director of the Jack Kirby Museum, and I'm
I'm,
here with.
I'm Tom Kraft, president of the Jack Kirby Museum.
All right, and hey, Tom. So here we are on a Saturday early evening, and going to talk about the first issues of um, Jack Kirby's Fourth World. So that should be fun. Looking forward to it. Um, you have anything to prepare our friends for this adventure? Just did you freeze?
No,
No.
I didn't. No,
Oh,
I'm sorry. I was getting an echo because my the other browser was playing the video, so I was hearing myself twice.
oh, okay. Yeah, your video quality looks really low on my screen right now. I don't know
Okay.
whether that means anything, but
Yeah, I don't know.
all right. So, shall we? You want to fire that thing up?
Yep. We're okay. Full screen. I'm sorry. Were
That's
you
okay.
sure?
We'll get there. It's all
Oh,
good.
there it is. Oh, it's over there. Okay. I'm just not used to this interface. It's
Right.
different than mine.
It is. Yeah. All
Okay,
right.
should be sharing. Do you see
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. It's looking good. So, yep. We're this is a series. We're honoring the 50 years of Jack Kirby's Fourth World. It originally, I guess, the first few issues came out at the end of 1970. So we're honoring this year as 50 years, and this episode is.
Number one.
It is.
So it's number one. So this episode, we're going to be looking at Mr. Miracle number one, Forever People number one, and New Gods number one. And they're all wonderful issues that came out. And you'll see the order that they came out and how the stories were developed at DC while Jack was first starting, in 1970.
Okay. The next screen. Hey, oh, yeah, that's it. The number ones. Yeah. My eyes. So yeah, so that was our my wonking out some color for the Jimmy Olsen, one of the Jimmy Olsen collages, and yep. So all right. Some of you might remember back in 1966.
Some of you may not.
But there was a time when Kirby was telling stories about Ragnarok in Asgard, and he told this story about Ragnarok. So there was all kinds of gods in turmoil and creations of new planets and new worlds, new gods were there in Asgard, in Tales of Asgard, in Thor, the Thor comics in 1966. And then, what happened? Jack, I think, got pretty angry and disappointed with what was going on with Marvel Comics. There were superhero cartoons being produced using his art. He didn't get any money for that. There was all kinds of other merchandising using the characters that he brought to Marvel to help make them as successful as they were becoming. And so he basically stopped creating new characters and for Marvel, for Goodman, for Stan Lee, and but that doesn't. It's Jack Kirby. He's going to keep making characters and ideas and concepts. So he developed some new characters, like this guy, Orion, the dog of war, on his what is it? Astrocycle, Tom?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not cycle, Astro something.
Astro something. But yeah, and Light Ray, these beautiful large drawings. What are they, about 11 by 14, something like that?
Right.
Nice paper. Dr. Martin colors.
It's called the Astro Force.
Astro Force. Astro Cycle. Is it?
No, Force.
The Force? It's a vehicle. Oh, all right. Light
but
Ray.
It's a force.
So again, as I've mentioned in previous streams, he used these Dr. Martin inks that ended up being, I love using the word, they're fugitive. They run away after a while. So some of the brightness and vibrancy of them are lost. But you can kind of do some. Tom's done some amazing Photoshoppery to bring back some of the Dr. Martin colors. There's Mr. Miracle. So starting from 66, 67, Kirby's working on these things. He's developing new ideas for characters. This is going to be Mantis's only appearance today. He is not in any of the first issues, so we're going to enjoy him and say farewell to you, Mantis. We will talk about you at some other time. But yeah, Light Ray, Orion. There's Darkseid. Again, his fantastic ear, only appearance of Darkseid's ear, and really cool collage.
What's kind of interesting is that these presentation pieces were so finalized; they weren't like pencil formed or anything like that. It was just like he had Don Heck ink some of them. He inked. Yep. It looks like he inked this one,
right?
And colored, but he colored everything himself.
Yeah.
So it was a real big presentation. So one questions that maybe he was really thinking when he was doing it about leaving, and he didn't know where to shop this around to, and DC happened to be the one place that he went to.
Well, I mean, and that was the thing. I mean, the comic book business. I mean, there weren't many places for like a science fiction action adventure guy to go. He actually had to leave DC in the late 50s because of a lawsuit that he was involved in with one of their editors there, Jack Schiff, and that was involving Sky Masters and Challengers of the Unknown. He had to leave, and that's kind of why he went back to Martin Goodman, Marvel, and Stan Lee. He probably didn't really even want to go there, but that was everywhere else wasn't really working out. But what happened was that Carmine Infantino had great success with his new look for Batman, and he had drawn some great Flash stories and Adam Strange stories. But he got himself into a position where he was like the art director and then editorial director, and it was unique at the time for DC to have an artist have that level of not prestige, but actual level of responsibility. And so I guess he was talking to Jack, but then the next thing that happened was that Jack Schiff, his kind of like his nemesis at DC, retired. So that kind of put Jack in a better position to be able to go back to DC Comics, and so he met with Carmine, and there's one more, right?
Yep. Metron.
There he is. Yeah. In his original Mobius chair, which I really like a lot.
It looks so modern compared to the other chair.
Yeah.
But I guess the other chair has a lot more gadgets and stuff on it that he needed to add, I guess.
Yeah. So it's really great collage. We've talked about it before. I love the fact that I believe the piece that's behind Metron's head is actually kind of a chrome foil thing. Really it's a pretty dramatic piece. So, the story is that Jack, and Carmine had spoken. Jack moved to California, and just to look for more opportunities, and just to get away from what was going on in New York, and there were health concerns with Roz and Lisa and his wife and daughter. So he started talking to Carmine, and they worked out a deal for Jack to come back to National/DC/Superman comics. So what we got to see as fans, we got to see the Forever People, New Gods, Jimmy Olsen, and Mr. Miracle. I mean, it's a really, chock full of ideas, right? I mean, you did an amazing analysis of all the characters, right, Tom?
Yep, right.
Well, we'll get to that. We're just doing the first issue, so I kind of like took your work and shrunk it down to just what was in the first issues. But yeah.
So. This is actually part of a bigger presentation that we did at the San Diego Comic Fest back in beginning of March.
It was just as the COVID was breaking out, and it feels like it was 3 years ago. But
yeah, it was really the eve before everything got locked down everywhere, and and then after that everything got canceled. So we're not going. Obviously, San Diego, we're gonna be doing a podcast. They're doing some kind of virtual thing, so we're going to be doing that. But other than that, there's not much going on in terms of conventions and traveling and all that kind of stuff and selling stuff, unfortunately.
Right. So here's a kind of a variation on Tom. I guess it is part of a shrunken down version of the analysis that you did with the on sale dates of the Fourth World books. So we have Jimmy Olsen 133 coming out at the end of August. That was the big Kirby splash at DC. Then maybe not quite, a little more than a month later, Jimmy Olsen 134. A month later, Jimmy Olsen 135, and then Forever People #1. So there were pretty much 3 issues of Jimmy Olsen on the newsstands before Forever People #1 appeared, which is I don't know, it's kind of odd, but there he is. And the thing about it is that if you look at just by Superman's ear over there, you see this X111. And those are called the X numbers. Those are basic like traffic or accounting codes that were given to every editor. Jack was his own editor at DC, and so his code was X. And you can see there that this first issue of Jimmy Olsen was given the number 111. So that's interesting all by itself, but then when you start looking at the other X numbers, you see something like the first issue of Forever People is X101. And just to have that be like 10 numbers before Jimmy Olsen, Tom, you did some analysis on like and came up with some good guesses as to like timing for like when Kirby worked on things, as opposed to because there's like general rules, right?
Right. There was another person, I can't remember his name, who worked on that spreadsheet for the X numbers. And that spreadsheet had dates on it, and these are the dates actually. So I didn't do these dates; they were indicated.
Got it. Okay, so so the idea was that we there's been some analysis that Kirby worked on Forever People #1 in March of 1970. New Gods in April. New Gods, Jimmy Olsen, and Mr. Miracle, all in April. And that's the order that they were given numbers. I'm assuming that he would bill or vouch, invoice for things as soon as they were ready to. So I'm just kind of making that guess that that was the order of the numbers is very, very close to the order of production.
Right. And the interesting thing is when DC republished a couple of times, they did a three-part omnibus, and then they did the big omnibus about 2 years ago. They reassembled the order based on the release dates. And so to really understand, and if you read it by the X numbers, it's a totally different experience. And it makes more sense because bringing Jimmy Olsen 133 out first is a little bit confusing because it talks about things that, like Darkseid appears in Jimmy Olsen 133, but it actually Jack had already drawn him earlier in the Forever People.
Right.
So it's interesting.
It is. No, it totally is. So here, I mean, it's a kind of the JPEG artifacts are pretty junky, but on Forever People #1, you can see that the X number is X100. That's the first thing that Jack Kirby, build DC Comics for. I think it's notable. I think it's really interesting to me that he had this whole suite of presentation characters, that you saw earlier, the beautiful color things, the collage pieces with Darkseid and Metron that he used to pitch to Carmine and thus to the people at DC Comics that they should hire him to reinvigorate their comic book line. But the first thing that he builds for is the Forever People. I think it might have had something to do with the youth market angle, since the Forever People are young people, and that might have had something to do with the audience that DC was looking for. They weren't looking for, I mean, I don't know. It just seemed like the youth market or the youth angle was pretty strong, and that's just my guess. Here's a scan of a stat of the cover to the Forever People #1, where the obvious difference, right, Tom, is the Super City.
Yeah, Super City that must have been his original thing, and the other notable thing, of course, is that Superman's not in the stat,
right,
to start with.
So, and if you look at on the right, this is the original art as it exists now, and inked by Frank Giacoia, which is really nice inking, a lot of people's favorites. But if you look over to the left of Beautiful Dreamer, there's kind of a pretty strong vertical line, and the Forever People figure is clearly just a piece of paper. It's been cut out, so that what was statted on the left was cut out and placed on another piece of paper, and then Superman was added along with the mountains and the building on the right. So that's just pretty interesting. And somebody else, it's also been there's been a guess that just a minor curiosity on the next one. Oh yes, there's Super Cycle right there on the front on their Super Cycle. But yeah, that big bear had facial hair.
More than his beard.
And more than just his beard. Correct. My mistake. Yeah. Mustache. Yeah. So his there's a few strokes of pencil in that stat that kind of indicates perhaps a mustache that did not make it into the final. So that may be the first Forever People drawing. That makes a good case for that.
And that might have been something that he brought to Carmine before he moved to DC to convince him to go.
Well,
who knows? I mean, it could have been that,
but he didn't. But he billed for this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he billed for this one, right?
So that makes it a little different. And this is a scan of the color guide for the cover. Just found it in our travels. Kind of fun to see how someone like Jack Adler or Jerry Serpe or Serp might have colored something to indicate to the engravers how to prepare the production for coloring. Oh yeah, so these are pinups that are in the Forever People number 4, and if you look at the X numbers down at the bottom, you've got 104, 106, and 105. Again, very early, actually closer to the time of the first issue. So these were probably, along with the drawing with the super cycle, these were probably pitch pieces, just to be like, I can just imagine, he and Carmine talking about something with kids, and Jack comes up with this stuff and turns it into and hands it in, or just to give Carmine the idea of like what he's proposing. They're very cool.
Okay, now it's up to you.
Oh, it's up to me. Oh boy, this is exciting. All right, so let's. I am going to do this, and then let's just.
How do I unshare?
Well, I am going to share.
Okay.
Am I sharing?
You're sharing.
And Control L. Right on. So yeah, let's just like take a wander through this first issue. Oh boy, it's there's the boom tube, and the kids on the super cycle show up. The incredibly wonky Superman in the lower right there, looking like a stat from the 1950s that DC slapped in there. It's a real, barrel-chested Superman with short legs. What do they say? Oh, yeah, it's like Superman drank too much beer. That was the old Superman back in the day. He looks a little bit like a chair giant. I think that his torso is really long, much longer than his legs. So there's Superman, but there's the kids show up. They pop through a boom tube. They scare these kids out on a date who happen to be friends of
Jimmy Olsen.
Oh yeah, so he's got Paulie or whoever's got a camera. And he takes a picture. He also takes a picture through the boom tube, and there's Darkseid on somebody's cell phone in 1970.
Right.
And this is just this great. These this great page with Clark Kent and this prize fighter, like number one fighter. It's just a
Rocky.
great Superman moment. Like it just kind of gives you a different sense of what Clark Kent might have been going on with in 1970 at DC, and nothing really different nowadays, but just pretty cool. A lot of Superman content, and there's Jimmy Olsen.
And it's really like a self-reflection of Superman, that he's alone and he's an outcast, as somebody who's not part of the world.
Yeah.
And there has been interviews with Jack where he talks about superheroes and Superman and how they're alone and how they might worry about everybody like reacting against them because they're so good. So it's kind of that theme is like weaves its way through this issue. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. There's lots of Superman content in this issue of the Forever People. We kind of in Kirby, fan scholar world, we talk a lot about how upsetting it is that they had Al Plastino redraw this stuff, and it is pretty upsetting. It looks completely out of place, but it's a great story. It's great writing. I just love the character bits, and that there's so much Superman, and he seems to be handled so well. So they're flying around. Darkseid's on the phone again. They're shooting things. People are, it's all kinds of adventures. I love how Superman destroys this helicopter, and Jack makes sure that to say that they landed and they're fine. Like, yeah. and the misprint on the sleeve. It's kind of funny. And then they're basically out there to find Beautiful Dreamer,
who's been taken by Darkseid, because there's Darkseid. She has a unique mind, and Darkseid thinks that she might hold the key to the anti-life equation, which is an equation that if he gets it, he can control all life. So they have no will. I mean, all his will gets transferred into whatever he wants. Everybody, everywhere to do.
So then the Forever People chant the four dudes like put their hands up and say Taru, and there's Infinity Man, and
so they have a tie with the Infinity Man. There's like a relationship with him, and they could summon him. And when they do that, the Infinity Man comes, and then they go to where the Infinity Man was. Another planet or something like that.
Yep. And interesting, Darkseid with a cape in this issue. So I don't know how many times he wore a cape.
This is the only time I can think of it.
Fashion note. He does kind of have a skirt on, but he's got like leggings and those boots with those big flaps and a cape. So there you go. Beautiful Dreamer is back. Superman has to do something fast. And then he's like, hey, what's up with that super place that you're from? I want to see Super Place.
Super Town.
Meet super people. And he really wants to go, but then they're like, but war is coming and there's dangers, and Darkseid's like the ultimate fascist. And he's about to go, and then he turns around and says, no, I must stay. It's kind of amazing that like the last page of the Forever People #1 comic is all about like some heartrending decision that's, and yearning that Superman has, and there's like Superman sitting on a rock feeling sorry for himself, but I don't know. I like it, but I don't know. Maybe it's not to everybody's taste, but I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to stop sharing that comic. And did I do? I think I did that.
Yep.
All right. So so these are the characters that we saw: Mark Moonrider and Viking and Big Bear, Seraphan. Viking, also known as Viking the Black.
Yeah.
Okay, Jack. Beautiful Dreamer, Infinity Man, Jimmy Olsen, Superman, and Darkseid. The top row is pretty much all the main characters, and then the story is mostly about Superman.
Right. It's true.
But it's like I just kind of have this crazy idea right now that Jack drew this story, and that they liked his handling so much of Jimmy Olsen and Superman that may have actually been the impetus for them to give him Jimmy Olsen. Like maybe it happened like that, or I don't know. It's just a guess. Maybe he didn't draw.
Or maybe the discussions about him taking over Superman didn't happen until after.
Exactly. Yes. That's kind of where but they asked him to put him. Clearly, they knew he was going to use the character, I guess. But anyhow, it's a cool story, and it's great that it's just the sad art thing with the Al Plastino redraws. But anyhow, let's move on. It's the New Gods #1. It's kind of a wacky cover. It's wonky. That background is weird. The font, the display type is weird and oddly aligned, but look at that thing in the center. That's mechanical, a paste up that we found at Lisa Kirby's house, right, Tom?
Yeah, about 5 or 6 years ago, right? So it's Jack's original titles that he designed for the series. So the titling, the logo for the New Gods looks designed by Jack.
I mean, I think Mark Evanier tells the story of how Jack liked those letters, so he cut them out of a magazine, or that they were used in something, and he cut them out, and that's exactly what we're looking at. It's cut out letters put on this thing.
I don't think he drew those by hand.
No, it's a base, and it's based on a stat of the Orion presentation piece, and the number one, the cover that was published is based on that too, and a very strange coloring. And then this is a stat that we got that was from the DC offices originally, and it's interesting to see how Kirby isn't here, is not on it, and that the Epic for Our Times is together and not split up, right?
And the Earth is like a drawing, and it's not a collage, and Orion is not tipped; he's straight.
Right.
So there's a lot of little things that got changed with the published cover.
Yep. So quite a few interesting little things. But here's in 1976, the DC was publishing this thing called Amazing World of DC Comics. Kind of a fan internal house fan magazine, kind of like what Marvel did Foom. DC did the Amazing World of DC Comics. So in 1976, they published this, where they featured their comic book called Showcase. And on this page here in the center, right on the lower right, they talk about how the New Gods was going to be featured in its last issue, number 94. It never happened. And then on the next page, we got to see there it is. We got to see the a little thumbnail version of what the Showcase 94 cover for New Gods number 1 looked like. It's interesting, but what's even more interesting about it is that when you look at the schedule for Showcase, you get to see that there's like Showcase 93. Where is that?
Right. Next or something?
Next, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So Showcase. Oh, you know what? It's in the darn notes. The Showcase 93 was published in September. No, wait a minute. I should have brought the notes up. Bear with me, folks. I'm going to bring this up because that's the only way I'm going to know for sure. Because I write things and then I don't look at the writing. Scrolling through. What's interesting is that, like, if it was indeed Showcase 94, that comic was going to be published in September, according to the standard schedule of Showcase. So looking at it compared to this, that might have been the first thing that they planned to publish, but it doesn't necessarily correlate with the X numbers, because we've got Forever People number 1 story being X100 and the Forever People 1 cover being 101, and then New Gods number 1 after that. So maybe Forever People 1 was done, and they wanted to put New Gods 1 in Showcase, and Jack probably didn't like that idea. I think that was the. I think I've heard that in passing from some of the people who knew him when that subject of Showcase was brought up, and so that just kind of yeah. So there's the X numbers again, right? So if he was working on that. It just kind of changes the whole schedule if you think that they might have published New Gods #1, earlier. They probably maybe he did the Superman, the Forever People story, and that just changed everything. Oh, there's the Calabac pinup from New Gods 4, which is X105, and the Light Raid pinup, which is also an early X number. So it's again something that was, these pieces were billed, on Kirby's scheduling billing docket to DC very, very early on. It's part of when he first started. And
now it's up to you.
It's up to me. Okay, here we go. I'm going to make this happen, and it's going to take me a second. Oh my gosh. All right, let's see if this works. Oh yeah, I think it will, and I'll do this. So let's take a look at New Gods #1. Is it happening?
Yep.
All right.
Happening.
Okay. So, I had to put in like a classic, like what the comic looked like for the cover, just because that is, the kind of thing that you would hold in your hands if you had that comic. But then the scans of the story are very modern. There aren't any of the dots. There's no indication of fading. So this is kind of a modern version of the story. But it starts with an epilogue, which is clever. And it starts with the end, and it's the end of the gods. There's all kinds of shenanigans going on and explosions, and then there's a new light, a guy on a bike, Astro Force. He's the dog of war, which it took me a real long time to wrap my brain around that his helmet was a dog-like. Those ears are dog ears. Yeah, I don't know. Didn't think about it for a long time, and then suddenly, the lightning bolt happened, and so he's Orion. What Orion's like heading back home, right? He's being called to
by High Father.
Yep, to New Genesis, and this is a weird. Go ahead.
And Light Ray is his buddy, and Light Ray, he keeps on calling him a novice, and you see that portrayed a lot later on in New Gods 6, for instance, that the glory boat, and he's also like always trying to pry into Orion about his split personality, because part of him is kind of like a gentle person, and the other part of him is very, very warlike, and he won't expose it. So he can only push so far, and Orion will just back away.
Right. This is an odd page, and I looked at some scans that we had of it, and that those word balloons at the top just kind of like, they're just, who's saying that? It's just really odd, and I don't blame Jack for that, to be honest. But maybe that woman who's on that floating platform.
I assume it's the woman, and he didn't want to put the balloon on top of. There's no space to put it there.
The big bush or whatever this. Yeah. So anyhow, just it's a little odd. But then these guys, they do some chatting, and Light Ray's being like, hey, this is nice. This again, with the youth angle. High Father listening to the children, and the older everybody's bows to the children, because life flowers in freedom.
Very, very 70s, early 70s, very.
Flower Children stuff. And then
Yeah.
they head into the visit the source wall. And then Metron shows up. Oh man, that guy. But
with his new chair.
His new chair. This is first appearance of, first appearance chair. Well, I don't know. I guess this is first appearance chair because the prototype, the presentation was a prototype, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So there's this stuff going on, and it's all like, you gotta, we've been summoned. And then the source, the moving hand, the hand of fire writes on the source wall and says, this is what's going to happen, Orion to apocalypse and to Earth and to war. So there's, get ready. So Orion takes off on his Astroforce and heads over to Apocalypse. And you could just kind of just get that sense again of like Kirby taking his time in the ghetto and in the war machine and turning it into a science fiction thing. It's just great. Apocalypse is an armed camp where those who live with weapons rule the wretches who build them. Like, what?
Well, the best part is life. If you go back, life is evil here, and death the great goal.
Boy,
that it really makes you want to. It just really brings it right down to Apocalypse.
Up there's the parademons. They're jumping him, but he loves to fight. He worships combat. Then he goes by the statue. Then these other guys show up. I don't know who these guys are. The Alpha Primitives, or no, that's the Inhumans. Sorry. These guys show up. There's more fighting. And these guys show up. There's more fighting. It's very exciting. It's fun. It's very. And then Orion gets into the throne room, I guess, or the main room, and nobody's here. They're having Darkseid is ruling by Zoom meetings. He's not actually in the place. So,
right.
And then Calabac shows up. I've got a big arm and a big stick. Let's fight. So they fight. Metron shows up. Right.
Metron always seems to show up at certain times throughout the series, and he's always like trying to like control or direct events.
Yeah.
And this is one case where he's doing that.
It's kind of fascinated by the tube network under the great cities. Seems like that was something that Kirby really, he liked that idea. I think he used it in quite a number of different stories.
Yeah, the Jimmy Olsen story too, when they did their
Yeah, and then I think the Horde, his novel had tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
Then they find the humans, the Earth people, and
so the idea here is that Darkseid had taken these people from Earth, and I guess, and that is against their prime directive to bring humans through the boom tube.
Right.
And the main purpose is to scan their brains to find out if they have the anti-life equation, because according to the anti-life equation, it is in some human's brain on Earth. So that's the reason he's doing all this stuff, is to get this equation.
Yep. Yeah. So Orion's able to break the bonds, and they wake up and they're like, what the heck's going on? Who is this big hairy guy and this guy in the helmet? And they're fighting, and they run through the boom tube.
And they introduce themselves too later, and those humans end up being a part of the whole series throughout the whole series. Actually, probably, I think, to the end or close to the end.
You're right. Yep. And they're back on Earth, and then, Orion kind of is like, there's trouble ahead.
Victor, Lansda, Claudia,
Shane. Yeah.
chain. Yeah.
Harvey Lockwood is there, but he is not. He is not. He has not introduced himself yet. So that's. We'll get to that. But then, and here's the last page. It's the prologue. So now it's the beginning, right? It started with an epilogue, which was the end, and the last page is a prologue. So yeah, and there's Darkseid looking great. Great drawing, great inking, even. Nice color work. And yeah,
it's we who live in the dark shadow of the outcome
oof.
Of the old gods,
right?
Of the new gods now.
Yeah. So I will stop sharing that,
and I'll start sharing this.
All right. Okay, that has happened. So I didn't include the Earth people, but there's our basic main characters from the story that appear. And then, oh yeah, look at this. So yeah, there's the two. On the left is a scan of my personal copy of New Gods 1, signed by Jack in 1975 in Miami Beach. But then what we realized and discovered was that the original art was cut up because there was no space for the indicia at the bottom. Now, Tom, you had an interesting thought about that.
Well, it's just kind of very strange because Jack, I can't think of any examples where Jack had done that before. So right. Just maybe it's speculation, but maybe he did this epilogue incomplete as like a presentation in a way. Wasn't planning on it being page 1, or maybe it was meant to be in another section.
Right.
I don't know. It's just kind of odd.
It is. Yeah. So it was fun to find that, and I think I posted on our website on the Kirby Effect, our journal blog, the missing Kirby Coletta New Gods 1 art discovered, and it was basically the 1-inch ribbon across the center that was missing. Yeah, I tried to have some fun with it, but you can see in the original on the left where they, there's that sword. It's a little ambiguous even in the the full art, but it seems like it's some kind of sword or something, but it's kind of disjointed. It's out of whack because that inch has been taken out. So yeah, that's fun. And just as a reminder, 4 years earlier in 1966, here's something that looks really similar. It's from it's at the beginning of the presentation as well. It's Tales of Asgard story involving Ragnarok. So yeah, Jack really had that story on his mind about an ending and a new beginning.
Mr. Miracle.
Oh boy. So that's a great cover though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
The funny thing is, if you read the story, when you get to the part where he's being sent to space on the rocket, it's a huge rocket, and he's a little thing on there. He's not like this small
right.
rocket with it's a very different.
That's right. The rocket is huge, and he's like a speck. Yeah.
Yeah.
There goes Jack messing around with scale again.
And it's X103 for the number.
That's right. Yep. The cover was 103. Yeah. So, it's time for me now.
Yep. Let's
take a look at this comic book. I have to say that it was kind of disappointing to read it after having read the first two. That I hadn't read it in a long time, and it was just is it happening?
It's happening.
All right. So here's the cover. I hope this works. Let's see. Right, splash page. So we've got Mr. Miracle, as it were.
That's the original Mr. Miracle, by the way.
Exactly. That is not scot-free. That is Thaddeus Brown and his helper Oberon, manager, and they're testing out an escape trick, and some dude's watching them over a fence.
Happens to be scot-free.
Yeah. And Scott, quick action, goes in there, and there's a...
He thinks he has to save him, but he doesn't really have to save him.
That's right. That's true. Yeah. And they chat, but check out that carpet bag that Scot-Free has, that green with yellow flowers. It's kind of funny. So he then the mobsters show up, from Intergang, something that Jack added, to all these stories, tried to turn it into something. There's a thing. Somebody did this about the Marvel. Like when was the word the Mafia used for the first time in Marvel comics? And it was odd how long it took because in the '60s they had the Magia. They had in Spider-Man and Daredevil, and here's Jack, kind of doing like a science fiction mafia and calling it Intergang. They're not the Mafia. It's just a criminal organized crime in the atomic age. Intergang. All right, we're gonna keep moving, and there's fighting and there's action. There's a Zom. That carpet bag comes in handy. More action. The classic clunking of two heads together in the lower left. And then we meet the incredible Steel Hand.
The funny thing is, and I think it was the page before, is that when Scott tells him his name, maybe it was a couple.
Oh wait! Oh yeah, I don't believe it. Scot-free, eh? Ha ha ha!
It's almost Jack Kirby laughing at himself.
That's true.
His own name, kind of thing.
Yeah. Steel Hand. He's got a hand, and he can break titanium bar. Okay. Yeah. And there's, they go through his Thaddeus's history. They mention his son who died, right?
Yeah, his son he died in the Korean War, and his son is the one that came up with the costume, so it has nothing to do with Scot-Free, obviously. And he's the one that made Thaddeus more modern and brought him back out and everything.
Superhero-like, right? Didn't he mention Superman or heroes or something? Scott tries something, and then he shows him on the bottom right. Oh, look, I have this little gadget. That's what made it happen. I was able to do
intense magnetic repulsion.
Incredible.
It's intense.
It's intense. Yeah.
So the story with the Steel Hand?
Steel Hand.
Yeah, he was in the hospital with Thaddeus because he had something happen to me with his hand, got messed up because of a Tommy gun or something like that. And while they were in the hospital together, they made Thaddeus told him that he was Mr. Miracle or whatever, and Steel Hand said I could make a trap for you that you'd never escape from. So they made this deal for, I think it was $10,000, that if he could escape from it, then he'd get the money. And so then Thaddeus was on hard times, and he's older now, didn't have any money, so he went back to him because he heard about him. But in the meantime, he got his Steel Hand, and he became this gangster guy. And
rose through the ranks of Intergang.
Yeah, and so he was threatened by the fact that he would have to give him $10,000, and so he's trying to kill him to prevent the deal from going through, kind of thing.
Right. You will not get $10,000 from me. I would rather kill you than honor our bet back in.
So that's what he does.
Yeah. And there's some more cool arm technology stuff, a mother box.
Yep, that's really cool. That's the first time we see, Scott with a mother box. That's really, I think it's the first time well, the Forever people had literally a box that was the mother box,
big
but
mother
not this is the first time we see like a mini mother box.
The little handheld version.
Yeah.
And then, Steel Hand proves that he can crush this robot. I don't know, man. Steel Hand. I don't know. It's not the greatest villain for the first issue.
Right.
So yeah, there's a little bit of some more of this stuff, and then there's the rocket, which is you're right, very different scale than what was on the cover.
And it blows up, and everybody thinks he's dead.
But he's not.
Wait, there's more.
You will not harm me with your steel hand. I have hyper sound intensifiers in my gloves.
Again, same thing he used for the chains earlier. And then he explains how as he's like kind of like controlling Steel Hand, he explains how he did it, and he uses that to say, well, I did this, and now it's on you, and I did this, and then.
All right, and that's the end. So I'm going to stop sharing that. No. Did I stop staring it?
You did.
Time? Okay, good. So yeah. Okay. Now what's happening?
Now we have the 4 key players.
Yeah, why am I not seeing it? Anyhow, so they're there.
That's strange.
Yeah, I'm just seeing like a gray screen.
Well, it's actually the last.
Yeah, we're pretty much at the end. It was a, not the most awesome ending, because I didn't in the reread. I was like, oh man, that Mr. Miracle thing. I couldn't imagine reading that story and getting all excited about it. To be honest, it was when Barda shows up and there's more, apocalypse adventures. It gets more fun. Dr. Bedlam, and so on. So let me. I know I will do a few things. So I mean, really, that is basically it for the day. Just thought it would be fun to take a look at the first issues and see what they look like, and try to fit them in with the X numbers and the publication dates, just to show that to you guys a little bit. Thought that would be fun. Yeah, I'm still just getting a gray screen. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Not seeing
you.
I
stopped sharing. I'm not sharing anymore.
Yeah, we don't even see you. But I'm going to share my screen and just.
Does anyone have any questions in the chat?
Of course, please. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
We're happy to engage in the chat room a little bit more now that we've kind of gone through the program, as it were. But I'm gonna do this. If I can. Yeah, if there's any questions in the chat room, that would be fun. And this is kind of our website, and
that's your hard drive.
It's my hard drive. We need to do that, but oh no, what are we looking at the wrong thing? Gosh darn it. Okay, so this is our website, and if you want to read some kind of basic news articles. We have our blog, The Kirby Effect, where we post different interviews and different articles. We have a long-running biography by the late Stan Taylor that we've been serializing there. We're near the end on that. Lots of fun, lots of great articles to look at there. There's a listing of Kirby interviews. Also on our website is a menu drop down that's support us and for sale, where you can go and kind of wander through some of the items that we offer. We have these this is our number one seller, the Galactic Black T-shirt, and we're kind of low on some sizes right now. But if you'd like to pick up one of those great shirts, you can really join the fun in wearing those things around town. They're really great, and a lot of people like them. But we have a lot of different shirts and items, posters and prints, and just check out our YouTube channel. You can do that, subscribe, and click the bell to get the messages that we're going live. I think Mr. Miracle was 71, right, Tom?
Yep.
Yeah, 1971. And no, there's some stuff going on, like as we mentioned at the beginning, where we're going to do a video presentation for the San Diego virtual con that the San Diego people are having. So that should be fun. It'll be Jack Kirby 101, which is
in 45 minutes.
Jack Kirby in 45 minutes, and so that'll be fun, just to try to get the word, explain who Jack Kirby is in a short period of time.
Right.
That'll be a challenge, but we hope you all enjoyed it, and I'm not really coming up with much else to talk about. It's been great kind of going through these first issues with
Do
you,
we
Tom.
know what the next one's going to be?
I'm thinking, well, we kind of switched off from the ramp up to a special guest with Mike, and now
Royer.
This is issue 1, Mike Royer, and then we had this, which is episode 1. So maybe we find another special guest.
Yep.
That might be fun.
Yeah. It'd be great.
Yeah. So that's me. I think. We'll work on that over the next few days. See how that comes together. But we're going to keep doing these because there's lots of fourth world, and it's the summer, and we're home, and we have technology. So, please join us.
And everybody stay safe and healthy and well.
All right. I agree. Please do so. All right, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, that was